All right. This time, I would like to call the meeting to order on Monday, April the 11th, 2022. If you'll stand for the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, as we come to you today, we'd like to thank you for all your many blessings. We'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here today to do the business for the County of Stokes. We ask that you'd be with us, lead, guide, and direct us in all that we say and do. And we ask for your travel mercies home, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. You'll remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, at this time, I need to get a motion to approve the agenda. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda?
Motion to approve as is.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that takes us to the next item, which is public comments. And the first person signed up to speak is Bobby Hickman. If you'll come up and you have 4 minutes and state your name and your address, please.
My name's Bobby Hickman, and address is 1409 Goldstown Road, Sandy Ridge, Tennessee 27046. And I just want to speak in behalf of Victory of People. We had 87 names on a petition says they don't want this road not to close because it's a through road and it'll be trouble for a whole lot of different people. And the road's about 200 years old. And when I have letters sent in of 78 letters saying they don't want it closed. So we're just trying to stand up for the people. We don't want a road that's halfway a road. It's a through road now, and it's a good road. So please understand it. I'm trying to do what the Lord told me to do.
All right.
So,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person is Anna Bolitsky. I'm sorry, I always mess that up.
I'm Anna, 741 Bennett Road. First, I'd like to express gratitude to those of you who showed the importance of due diligence. Thank you. From the multiple petitions and concerned citizens, you know where the community stands on the Victory Hill Church Road issue. It's inappropriate and unjust that a Rockingham commissioner stated it's just a matter of time before Stokes passes this because of connections with one of their commissioners. This comment was made in January, long before it made it to your desk or to the public of Stokes County. It's flattering that an individual buys thousands of acres between Rockingham and Stokes. Welcome to God's country. It's not flattering when that individual immediately tries to take away a 200-plus-year-old public road from the locals. When someone takes away a public through road to claim as your own, we all deserve an explanation better than because I want to build a horse barn and people throw out trash and shoot guns. I want to remind you that Rockingham County has not, and I repeat, not approved the road to be closed, only to end state maintenance. It's still a through road. You know where emergency services in both Rockingham and Stokes counties have stood on the issue when it was denied not once, not twice, but 3 times because of not meeting board standards and is not in the best interest of the public. Our question is, what is different? Ending maintenance and essentially closing the road benefits one person and one person only, and this person does not primarily reside in Rockingham or Stokes. Thank you, guys.
Next person signed up to speak is Andy Stevens.
Back to prepare notes, and it's a page and 3/4. It might be a tad over 4 minutes, but I believe I'm the last speaker and should be able to finish it without too much trouble. Good evening, Commissioners, staff, visitors in attendance, and viewers via the web. My name is Andrew John Stevens, and I reside at 157 Old Garner Drive, just outside King City limits in Stokes County. Tonight I'm going to talk about dogs in hospitals. Let me begin with the dogs. Our tax manager apparently believes Stokes County citizens are taxed enough already and has prepared for you a resolution that will finally free Stokes County taxpayers from the burden of county dog taxes. This is admirable, and I encourage you to look hard at other areas of taxing revenue and conclude likewise that county taxpayers need additional tax relief. For not only are we suffering under the runaway inflation inflicted by the Biden administration and an overall 14% increase in county property taxes payable this year over last, but we have a troubling lack of compliance with this county taxing ordinance. Based on the calculations submitted with tonight's resolution, many just don't pay. Statistics tell us in North Carolina approximately 44% of households own at least one dog. The census tells us there are currently 19,608 households in Stokes County. Finally, statistics tell us that the average dog-populated household has 1.62 dogs. Now, I can tell you, having worked with Space Stokes on their semi-annual rabies events over the past 5 years, we in Stokes County love our dogs. I suggest at a greater percentage than the state as a whole, and with more than 1.62 dogs per household. Our events will fill time and time again with customers bringing not just one or two dogs, but carloads of dogs, not just once, but even making repeat trips to inoculate them all. That said, the simple math of 44% of 19,608 households at an average of 1.62 dogs apiece leads to a total number of taxable dogs of nearly 32,000. Taking the tax manager's 21-22 revenue of $18,905 divided by $6 per dog tax paid amounts to only 3,150 dogs. The conclusion? Take your pick. 90% or more of dog owners in Stokes County are at least habitual tax cheats, or their dogs identify as cats. This Board of Commissioners has a penchant for moving discussion items to action with regularity. I submit in this campaign election season, short of shaking hands or kissing babies, nothing will go over better with our fellow citizens than to repeal the Stokes County dog tax. Those up for re-election, whose names I cannot mention under penalty of being gavelled down, seized, and thrown from this chamber, should let us know exactly how they stand today on this unenforced ordinance, or serve judgment on those who unlawfully avoid the payment of our county dog tax. Now to a really pressing matter, and that being the condition of our existing urgent care hospital facility in Danbury, along with its outlying satellite locations. Those who cannot be named under penalty from this podium ought to be in the same room with those of us hearing just how deplorable existing conditions are, and how soon basic needs such as heating and cooling, water and sewage, roofs, windows, and floors may fail. The time for action is now. We cannot and must not wait any longer. Apparently $10 million is available to jumpstart this process, yet assuming it would be burning a hole in someone's pocket to profitably spend, we've heard not a word about cashing the check. Instead, we've heard rumors that some might want the Danbury facilities to collapse like the ruins of ancient Greece, while a shining new edifice rises to the south in King. A vision the consensus of crowds turning out to the meetings on this subject adamantly do not share. There is one last meeting tomorrow night in Germantown, and it perhaps will be the most important of the series. We will have a representative of the Rural Hospital Committee in Raleigh in attendance who perhaps can clarify the difference between critical access hospitals, acute care hospitals, certificate of need waivers, $10 million state grants, and the impact of competition for customers, that is, patients, on the survival of one hospital or many in Stokes County. I'll end with this brief quotation attributed to, among others, General George S. Patton. For over 1,000 years, Roman conquerors returning from the wars enjoyed the honor of a triumph, a tumultuous parade. In the procession came trumpeters, musicians, and strange animals from conquered territories, together with carts laden with treasure and captured ornaments. The conquerors rode in a triumphal chariot, the dazed prisoners walking in chains before him. Sometimes his children, robed in white, stood with him in the chariot or rode the trace horses. A slave stood behind the conqueror, holding a golden crown and whispering in his ear a warning that all glory is fleeting. Don't let separate consideration for fame and glory blind you to your civic duty. This Board of Commissioners must take immediate action to honor the generations of service provided Stokes residents from a Danbury-centric urgent care hospital and undertake the construction there and elsewhere of adequate facilities to carry us, our children, and our grandchildren of Stokes County well into the 21st century. Oh, and lest you forget, don't forget to repeal the dog tax tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments. And we'll move on to the comments from the commissioners, and I'll start down here with Commissioner Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to welcome everybody. It's good to see a big crowd out tonight to participate with us as we do county business. We always like to have feedback from the community, both in person and any other way that you'd like to contact us. And so thanks again for being here. That's all I have, Madam
All
Chair.
right. Commissioner Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, just good to see everybody here. Thank you for coming out. Hope the meet goes pretty good for you, and hope we can help you anything you got. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Mendenhall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate everybody here tonight. Wished we had every single seat filled. I see about 5 or 6. It's not. But it is a pleasure, as always, to welcome you to this meeting of the commissioners. And to anyone that's watching us, as this is being live streamed, I say to you also a welcome. And to Mr. Stevens, I say you must have watched the Patton movie I've seen many times, and I've heard his exact quote that you just made many times, and I admired George Patton. Some people didn't like his way of leadership, but I thought he did a fine job to help U.S. through World War II, and I appreciate that quote you made there. And to everybody else that's here, I see a lot of people here that I know, probably 98% of you I know. Of course, when you get old like I am, you get to know everybody in Stokes County. So thank you for being here tonight, seriously. We appreciate you coming out. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Barney Castle.
Just to reiterate, it's great to see everybody today and everybody watching live stream, and it's good to see the Lord's bless us with another beautiful day, and I welcome each and every one of you. Thank you.
And I, too, would like to welcome you all here and those watching at home. It's good to have you here. I'm just going to take a quick second to update everyone on a meeting I had earlier today. We had the first and what I hope is many meetings with VIA Health with our substance use treatment steering committee that we've formed, and there was 24 of us there today to look at this problem of treatments for substance abuse and the opioid crisis, where I think Stokes is slated to get about $4 million from the opioid settlement. That being said, that's over 18 years, so it's going to trickle in a little bit, but it's something that we're hoping to be able to work with VIA to see how best to spend that money on treatment and how we can impact the opioid crisis in our community. So we had a very good informative meeting looking at a lot of the roadblocks and problems, and the next meeting will focus on some of the solutions to those problems. So just wanted everybody to know we are addressing that and working on that issue for our county, because that touches so many lives. And I wanted to say our manager, Shannon Shaver, couldn't be here. They had a death in the family, and she is out of town this weekend to attend a funeral, and we'll be back in tomorrow. So we thinking thoughts and prayers for that family for sure. That's all I have. And Amber, do you have anything you'd like to? You're good.
Just welcome to everybody here. Hope you enjoy the meeting, and like Shannon always says, let us know if we can help you with anything. And I hope everybody has a good Easter holiday coming up this weekend.
Yep, thanks for reminding us about that for sure. And I think the schools are on spring break next week, so good there. All right, I'm going to move on to our conflicts of interest statement. Before moving any further, does any board member have a conflict of interest with any of the items on the agenda for tonight, or one that could be perceived as a conflict of interest?
Madam Chair, on action agenda item C for the abandonment resolution request for Victory Hill Church Road, I'd actually have a contract. It's actually through another contractor, but I just found out last week it is one of Mr. Carroll's properties, so therefore being perceived as a possible conflict of interest, I'll be able to recuse my vote from that.
All right. Anybody else? All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes, budget amendments, and tax office items for approval. Does anybody have any questions about any of those items?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. That takes us to the discussion agenda, and item A is the resolution rescinding the animal tax, and we have Tax Administrator Richard Brim here. Thank you.
Good evening. Apologize in advance. I'm fighting seasonal allergies, so just bear with me a minute. I'm here tonight to discuss the possibility of the board of rescinding the animal tax in Stokes County. Stokes County is one of only 16 counties in the state that either levy an animal tax or collects an animal fee. Currently, Stokes County levels an animal tax of $6 per listed dog. Over the past several years, the number of dogs that's been listed and the amount of taxes that's been collected have decreased. The time and effort associated with listing, billing, and collecting the animal tax is considerable compared to the amount of revenue generated, as indicated in the attached spreadsheet. The animal tax is difficult to enforce, as only a small fraction of the dogs are listed within the county. This seems unfair to the portion of taxpayers that actually do list their pets. It's also the number one complaint that we receive in the tax office for personal property items that are to be listed. Based on the information presented to the board, it's the recommendation of the tax administration to rescind the animal tax effective for tax year 2022. I've attached a resolution that reflects such, that has been approved from the legal perspective by County Attorney Nick Overby, and I'm requesting this be moved to the consent agenda for April 25th.
All right, thank you. Do board members have questions about this?
Just a comment, Madam Chair.
All right, go ahead, Rick.
I think you've made a really good case for doing this, Richard, so I think I can support making this change.
I have a quick comment. I'm 100% in support of this resolution rescinding the animal tax. I prefer not waiting to put it on the consent agenda. We have many times moved things to action, and this is something that can be moved to action instead of putting it on the consent agenda at the next meeting. So I'd like to ask the board if they would consider moving this to action tonight.
I don't have any objection to that. Do any other board members have any objections to go ahead and moving it to action tonight?
I don't.
All right, then we will move it to action, and it will be item D on action. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
One quick question.
Uh-huh.
My daughter's playing a softball game tonight. Do I need to stay for the action, or can I go ahead and leave?
You can leave.
I don't want to.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Richard.
All right. Item B is the EMS quick response vehicle request. Brandon Gentry.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey.
Hope everybody's doing well. I know you've seen your packet. Last year's budget, the 21-22 budget, we requested a quick response vehicle to start in the Francisco area. Where we added the 6 people to add the additional EMS unit, that was a lot to add to one budget cycle. It was left in the budget to try to staff it with part-time people as we could, and we got to do the Appendix B at the fire department. And what that means is the Perry Peterson architect has to come in and look, make sure it's safe for someone to be there 24 hours. And after we met with him and Rick Zamani, they went through everything, all the life safety stuff. The fire department's going to have to add a window in the room they'll be staying in for 24 hours. And before we went any further, I wanted to talk to all of you and see, the main purpose of this is putting a paramedic in a pickup truck in Francisco area, because that is our longest response time to get an ambulance. Average response time in some of them areas is 20 to 29 minutes. This quick response vehicle would be there, hopefully. I put in the budget again this year for the 3 additional people, 1 per shift, to make it a full-time 24-hour. But really, it'd cut down on response time, be a paramedic there. The fire department up there does great with basic life support. This here would put an advanced life support provider in that community, and it would serve more than just Francisco. It would serve Lawsonville, Francisco, Westfield, some of Double Creek's area, probably down to 268. And also the Sandy Ridge side, it would also serve, if the supervisor wasn't in Danbury or close to that area, that truck could come all the way across to help. Whenever we do run out of ambulances, this person could get on a spare truck with a supervisor and make a 7th truck if we get busy. And right before I come in here, we were down to no trucks for about 30 minutes. They got busy. We really wanted to start this November, December, but the COVID surge, we had a lot of people out. So we didn't really have the staff to do it. Todd already looked at the contract with the fire department. I met with the board of directors up there twice. Kind of have it set up like the Lawsonville contract where we stay in their fire department. And they're willing to do 2 years, no charge of us staying there to hopefully get this program up and going. Like I said, in the budget this year, we do have a spare vehicle we could use right now and spare equipment that's going to take us down to the very minimum to do it. But like I said, I put stuff in this upcoming budget to try to alleviate that because we need that spare equipment there if we need to make up an additional truck. But we do have the equipment now to start doing this, and it may not be every day that we'll have a part-timer come fill in because we don't want to use overtime. We're wanting to staff it with our part-time to let our full-time senior paramedics go up there to be on this truck. And once we get this going really well, we'd like to add blood to that vehicle also. So we'd have the supervisor truck with blood on it and the quick response vehicle. But as far as any questions, I just want to, before we move forward, I wanted to make sure everybody still wanted to start doing this and let's see how it goes before they spend money on a window. And I mean, the architect, we're looking about, he told me about $850, $900, and I budgeted from last year's budget. So it's mainly to help the citizens that part of the county that's got a little longer response time.
All right, thank you, Brandon.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
this is personal to me, probably other than Commissioner Barneycastle, who works with the fire departments and EMS departments, and has had quite a bit of experience in this area. I don't think there's anyone else up here that's had the personal experience I have as far as response time and the importance of response time. As most of you know, I've had 2 massive heart attacks. First one was 100% blockage, same type of heart attack that killed Skip Prosser. Just happened to have ambulance 4 minutes from my home that night. That was coming from King to South Stokes. I live about 3 minutes from South Stokes. My cardiologist told me up front if the response time hadn't been so quick, I wouldn't have made it that night. 2016, I had my second heart attack with 2 95% blockages, and once again, I had an ambulance there within 5 to 6 minutes. Response time is so important, and as I having 2 heart attacks and the ambulance time being so quick to my home, I feel like, along with the good Lord and the response time of our ambulance, I wouldn't be here today. So I certainly, and I know Commissioner Barton Council may want to address this along with our other commissioners, but I'm certainly in support of this.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, anytime it comes to the medical treatment of citizens of Stokes County, I'm always behind it. This is an area that, it's like Brandon said, is a lot of time responding, especially when you don't have an ALS unit in that part of the county. As a matter of fact, when I was coming in for this meeting, and I was hearing a ALS unit coming out of Rockingham County, coming to our county to the Sandy Ridge area because all of our trucks were tied up. You answered my question about the contract, and Ty's looked over it. Ty's good with the contract with the fire department because
Yeah.
I enjoy years of dealing through fire department, EMS, though there's been that little conflict,
Right.
back and forth, and I think this would be a ideal thing for that area. The only thing I would ask, if this board does approve that truck stay in that area at all possible,
Right.
as long as it can before it comes to the King area, because, we could call a quick response out on Cy County pretty quick,
Right.
a medic
And our
truck.
goals, everything's gone on that side. If we had to pull them to Lawsonville, they're 9 miles from Lawsonville to Francisco and 8 miles to Sandy Ridge. So that kind of moves them to the center, and they'll cover a big area.
Well, that's my point. I mean, that's the key point. If you move it too far this way, you've defeated the whole purpose of what we're trying to, the goal we're trying to get here.
The
You
goal is to
know?
leave that truck north.
Correct. Leave it north of this county. That's where it needs to stay. That's my goal. That's what I was saying. That's all I got, Madam Chair.
All right, Rick, do you have a
Thank
comment?
you, Madam Chair. So, Brandon, if we do this, will all of the county be comparable in response times? Or
Yes,
is there another gap somewhere that's
Your
just
next
like
gap's
this
gonna
one?
be Sandy Ridge, and it's about 18 minutes for our response time there. Because I did look at that because the state did a survey 99 when I started here, 98, 99, and the state Office of EMS did it, and it showed an ambulance in King, one at Cove, one in Danbury, and one at Lawsonville, and a QRV at Sandy Ridge and Francisco. So if you kind of look at the county map, it kind of look like a dice with 5 on it. That's kind of what you're looking at because of the mountain. You know,
Okay.
That's really the Sandy Ridge. Yes, that would be your next.
Does this help Sandy Ridge though too?
Well, it can if it's a bad call and the ambulance from Danbury's going, because that district's kind of split between the ambulance in Danbury and Lawsonville. The supervisors in King, this truck could respond to Sandy Ridge to assist the crews if it's something bad, like a cardiac arrest, a bad motor
Okay.
vehicle accident, stuff like
So
that.
this one, if you're looking at prioritize, this is the worst area that
This is
needs
the
to get
worst area.
done.
Yes.
And then we may have to do a little bit more later, possibly down the road. So what is it if you refresh my memory, what did we approve you to do in the last budget to start doing this with a extra vehicle and some equipment
Yeah,
you
we
already
had-
had? We didn't approve it at all, right? Or did we approve
Didn't
it?
approve that to hire the people, just approved it to do it with part-time staff.
Did we approve a vehicle also for the
No.
last?
No.
Okay,
No, the vehicle is the spare we have. There will be some issues with that, but I mean, they can drive my vehicle. Whatever we need to do, like for services. Right now, I was trying to do it least expensive way as we could.
Okay.
But maybe I did put in for a lease vehicle in the budget if this goes through and it starts working.
okay, then so, are you asking us to approve a full crew now of how many people?
No, sir. Just,
No.
I'm just asking.
That
for
would be in the
approval.
budget.
That'll be in this coming year's budget.
You are gonna put that in the next budget
Yes, it's
proposal?
already, yeah.
Okay.
I've already submitted it this in.
And a vehicle as well?
Yes.
Okay,
And to get a heart monitor and all that, so we don't use our spare heart monitor, I put in a whole lease program that they do with our stretchers, heart monitors and everything. I think you all will really like
oh, okay,
in the future.
okay. Will you have any staffing issues with keeping this staffed, having
Well,
to do 6 more people?
Yeah, I mean,
You
right
think,
now we're full staffed, all but one opening, and we already got some applicants for that. I mean, right now is the time for us to move on, I think, and try this, since we are full staffed, unlike other counties. Right now, we've been very fortunate. But,
Okay,
you know, if we do have someone call in sick, you know, we may have to that'll be the first thing we shut down till we find somebody else to come in, and try not to utilize any full-time.
so when you come to our full budget proposal, this will be like a little test program, you can kind of update us on
Right.
how it's working and all
Right.
that before we approve the final.
Yeah, because I'm
Oh,
estimating anywhere
fine.
from 500 to 600 calls this truck would serve.
Okay,
And that could go up, down. It's hard to say. I'd see it going up more than down.
yeah, okay. Okay, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I don't really have any questions for you, Brandon, but after what you just said, that's got one question that popped in my mind was, how long out are y'all looking to, before you start getting something in Sandy Ridge as well?
That would be, well, I mean, I'd love to ask for it this year, but kind of looking at, you know, we're a small county, we can't afford it so much, and we need to work into it a little at a time. The only thing, if you add 6 people to do one on each side, you add 6 people, you can add an ambulance. So that's the only thing. I know looking at capital, things we need to be addressing is probably adding on to the station in King here in the next year or so, maybe adding a 7th truck due to call volume on that side of the county. I'm back November, December, January. You know, it was really, really bad because of COVID, but now we're down to where we should be. Other than today, like Wayne said, got a little busy. So as far as adding Sandy Ridge, I mean, it'd be great if we could do it at the same time, but then you're looking at the same cost putting on another ambulance minus the ambulance.
Okay. Thank you, Brent.
I don't have any questions, but I don't know that we need to take any action on this
That's,
right now. I think if you just
Totally
want
up to
to.
y'all. I need to get the architect moving, and then the fire department's gonna
Okay.
start moving on getting a contractor to do
You
the
basically
window.
need action on the fact of having to update some things at the fire department so that if somebody can stay there around the
Right.
clock. Okay, well, I
And the
think,
contract, I mean, if you guys are okay with moving it to action, that will help. Perry said take him a few days to do what he needs to do, then
Okay.
the fire department, of course, however long it takes to find a contractor and.
we're
get that
basically just taking action on the updates that need to happen up at Francisco at the fire department to make this happen.
Okay,
Okay,
That's fine.
is that okay with the board? We'll make that
Yep.
action item E.
Madam Chair, I got one other question.
Okay, go
Brent,
ahead.
if we, I know we, looking to put this in Sandy Ridge, Fresco, I'm sorry. But is maybe somewhere down the road, we could look to get a little closer into Sandy Ridge with this truck or another ambulance to help both sides of these people that has a longer response time?
right. Yeah, I mean, I've looked at the substation at Pine Hall and Sandy Ridge. They're, right Dillard Road. Be a great place. You know, it's hard to say what the call volume's gonna do in the
Exactly.
next year to 2 years. Yeah, I mean, ideally, it'd be nice to have an ambulance Francisco, one in Sandy Ridge. But then you take the one out of Lawson, that's been there for 40-some years. And I'm going to answer to, well, it was good for 44 years. Why is it not good now? But, I mean, really, you could, because the truck in Danbury is 6 miles from Lawsonville. So really, if you look at it that way, you could move that truck over that's up there now and add one in Sandy Ridge 5 years from now. But I'm not wanting to take an ambulance out of Lawsonville by no means, because I mean, I like where it is and go either way. And the QRV may be the cheaper as far as maintenance on a vehicle. I know you gotta hire additional 6 people, but if you do both areas. But I think right now with the 20 to 29 minute response time in Francisco is our most important right now. Then our next goal will be to work on the Sandy Ridge area.
As you and I both know, I mean, we got radios and we know where 80% of the time our ambulances is going. They go
Right.
into the south of the county because
Right,
that's where the biggest bulk of the calls is at. And then when you do that, you leaving all this side over here open.
right,
You know, that's why you got one coming out of Rockingham County this afternoon.
right.
You know,
I mean, I could do it with 2 trucks if I could schedule the 911 calls, but I can't.
I totally understand.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you.
Brandon.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. The next item is the River Street Network presentation.
Madam Chair, Board, I appreciate you having us here. The last time I was here, we talked about the county issuing an RFP and the fact there's going to be a lot of funding out there for expanding on what we've already started here in the county. We've gone through that process. Sincerely appreciate the fact that we were awarded the winner of that RFP. And right now, we're currently in the process of working through the details of the contract, and so that's always part of the process. The committees met, and we received a contract, and we've turned that back, and so we're going back and forth. We'll probably, hopefully, be able to meet with the committee and work through the final details of what that contract entails. But what I will say is, just a high level, is that this project in and of itself, the RFP was to serve every single person in the county that, as the maps currently say, don't have broadband service of at least 100 by 20, okay? So it's about 1,904 homes. And so our plan basically accomplishes that goal. And so we put forth a proposal that we would apply for grant funding from, right now, currently in North Carolina is the NC Great Grant Program. It is limited to areas that are 25 and 3. There's other programs that will be coming that will help us apply for grant funding that will be 100 by 20. We've talked to staff of the North Carolina Broadband Infrastructure Office just this afternoon, and, you know, the rules are still coming out. We believe it'll be limited to 25 and 3, so we want to be able to apply for additional funding for 100 by 20 to finish what we hope to do is build gigabit-capable fiber-to-the-home service to these 1,904 locations. So this project entails a contribution from Wilkes, which is federal funding that we've received from River Street, as well as matching funds from our company to finish the network, as well as to cut over as many customers as we possibly can. And so we estimate about 40% of those people will take the service. It could be more, but that cost would be on us. The county would be putting in close to $2.4 million of ARP funding. So this funding can be allocated and used for the purpose of broadband deployment. And so we appreciate that commitment. Any grants we apply for and the use of those funds would be compliant upon the federal guidelines for that money, as well as any state or federal grant programs that we're awarded. And we will try to apply for as much funding as we possibly can. Any additional funding above and beyond the project costs would actually reduce the cost to the county on that commitment. So our intent is to try to receive more grant funding than we hope. So, you know, that's a pretty big commitment from the county. We've already worked together. You know, there's going to be multiple, I think, tries at some grants. And so that's what's kind of complicated the process with our contract, is making sure that we cover that we can apply for multiple rounds of funding to accomplish this goal. One of the things that we've also put in as part of our contribution to this project is not just a fiber-to-the-home project that will touch 1,904 homes, but also a wireless project that would cover over 6,300 homes in the county. And that would be at our cost, River Street cost. No additional cost to the county itself. And so they estimate to build that project is about $1.2, $1.3 million. The total project to cut over what we expect to be the customers that would use it would be approximately $2 million. And so if that cost of that project exceeds that estimate, it would be on us. And so that's an additional benefit for the county. So a lot of thought went into our proposal. We appreciate the fact that we're well on our way. We've already began work on this project, actually. So the engineering, design on the wireless project, we've already started working on it. And so our intent is, you know, the project is subject to being awarded a grant, but that's not stopping us from getting started. Technically, we have 180 days. We're asking for 180 days to start the project once we receive materials, but that's the worst-case scenario. We want to try to get it done as soon as possible. The intent is to get this done 3 years from when we receive a grant funding, but as I mentioned, work's already begun. And so our intent is to try to get this done as soon as we possibly can. We know it's a significant need for the county, and we're very well aware of that. So again, we appreciate the fact that we've been awarded. We look forward to getting this project started and applying for grants as soon as possible. With that, I'll introduce Greg Coltrane, our Vice President of Business Development, to walk through the actual scope of the project. And so this is still preliminary, subject to, you know, the final terms of the contract, but we wanted to give you guys an idea of what that entailed on the fiber side as well as the wireline side. We also have with me Anessa McKinney from our sales group, as well as Bill Shillito, who's one of our business development managers as well, that helped work on this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you all for having us here tonight again. Can't tell you how much we appreciate the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I'm going to run through a couple of slides, and I hope you guys can see it okay from the screen. We've got some maps in here that I think will kind of help put things together. But before we do that, I wanted to break down to you a little bit about the North Carolina broadband budget. I know that Glenn is in the room, and so Glenn is very familiar as he works with the Broadband Infrastructure Office. But essentially, the state budget was to create two buckets, kind of an infrastructure and access bucket and a digital literacy bucket. And that first bucket, they put $971 million. And that was really just to work on critical infrastructure, getting the speeds in the state where the deficits were to where customers could actually receive greater than 100 by 20 service. And so then there was another bucket of money created that had $50 million in it, and that was for digital literacy. Now, when you take these buckets and you start breaking them down, there is the Great Grant Program, which was created several years ago. It's evolved a couple of times. That program has $380 million in it for statewide grant awards in this cycle, and that cycle closes on May the 4th. Again, this is to help with middle mile and last mile infrastructure for connecting fiber to the home.
It could potentially be used for wireless as a stopgap in a situation where wireless made more sense. The Broadband Make Ready program has $100 million in it. That was created really to help with pole replacements in the event that there was pole attachments that were going to be used in the deployment process. And then the broadband mapping is $100 million to help the state begin to develop their own mapping that can be more accurate. States have a tendency to understand a little bit better than the federal government about what is going on in their state. So I think that's one of probably the key components there is we've got two things going right now. We've got the federal the FCC is trying to redesign the maps that we've been using for all these years for funding, and our state at the same time is doing that. So it's kind of a race to the top, and then I feel like there will be an opportunity for a compare and contrast between what the FCC says from reporting they receive from programmers or from providers and what the state says. And we'll get more clarification when that's complete. Then the new program that they created is called the Completing Access to Broadband Grant Program. And there's $400 million in there. And this program is kind of a unicorn right now. The state is still trying to put that program together to tell us guidance about what that program will exactly fund. The theory is that it would potentially fund areas that have less than 100 by 20. So if you go out in the state and you get all the areas that people have less 25 and 3, and you get those people taken care of, then there would be another wave of grant funding to focus on less 100 by 20 areas. But that's still to be interpreted by our legislators and by the state. And then the last bucket is the stopgap solution, which basically has $90 million in this. And I look at this from what I'm hearing from the bio office is this is at the end of Great Grant being awarded and at the end of the CAP fund maybe going through one iteration that the state would have the ability to use the stopgap program to fill in the blanks for the things that didn't quite fit right for Great Grant. It didn't really fit right for the CAB program. And it would give them a discretionary fund that they could use to award either fiber or wireless grant applications to fill those fringe areas that got left out. So let's talk a little bit about this particular project. And as Eric mentioned earlier, our engineering has already started working through this process. We did that when we responded to the RFP. Now what you're looking at here is the existing fiber network that we've already constructed through the county. It's roughly 239.15 fiber cable miles, and then the constructed route miles are 107.38. And so we're passing approximately 2,709 serviceable locations with that fiber. Now, if you'll notice on the screen, there's a light green that shows up in here, and this is the work that we've already done. Because what we found out as we were researching the county and the areas that were, the main focus of the RFP was for us to focus on less 100 by 20 unserved customers. And so when we identified those locations, obviously we had to figure out how to build the fiber backbone to reach into those communities and segments. And that's what you see here. And we've broken that apart into categories, so less 25 and 3 areas, and then pretty much everything else. So we've got 3 buckets. We've got 40 miles, route miles, that is considered part of the CAF2, that's less 25 and 3. Another 68 route miles that's a part of the RDOF, which is 25 and 3. And then another 55.19 route miles that would pick up everything else to get all the less 100 by 20 areas. Total of 164 route miles. So then we went back after the RFP and we started looking at the current Great Grant Fund grant program. And we wanted to isolate anything that you had in Stokes County that the state recognized as being potentially fundable in this grant cycle. And that's what you see in the tan areas or the orangish colored areas that are here on the map. And so the route miles that would need to be constructed roughly are 65.10, and then the locations that we would pass with fiber would be 798. The federal grant build locations are 280, and then the proposed NC Great Grant build locations would be 280. And so the estimated funded locations that would get connected would be about 112. Now, I know these numbers are kind of complex, and we can sit down and go through this in like a deeper dive with your broadband committee if you would like, so that we can help them understand that. And then lastly, this is everything. So if you look at everything in the county that we identified as being less 100 by 20, that's all of the tan and orangish colors you see here. That's the 1,904 number that you might have recalled seeing in the RFP response that we submitted to you. And so the estimated fiber subs that would get connected would be 762. The grant build location is 783. And then the portion that we feel like would be focused on for NC Great Grant would be 663 of those locations. The total proposed route miles of this entire project, again, is 164 miles. Now, before I go into this slide here, I want to tell you that we're kind of, we responded to the RFP and you guys awarded that to us, but we're in a weird place because we've got the state Great Grant program that funds the less 25 and 3 areas, and then we've got this other thing that we know will come. We just don't know exactly all the rules for it. So what we wanted to do was try to prop this up so that if the county would allocate $2.4 million, that allocation could then be used to go attack these as they show up. And right now, we have the Great Grant Award sitting at our feet, ready, needs to be applied for before May the 4th. So that's what we're trying to work out the details of with you now contractually. So we've basically written the contract to cover, if this happens, then we can do this, and if this happens, then we can do this, because it's all subjected to those new rules that would come out as to whether or not we could go further and attack the less 100 by 20 areas through the CAB program. And then there's this other thing that's sitting out there with the FCC, where there's funding that's been allocated that'll be coming down to the states. And that's yet a third bucket that we would want to focus on. So I think we're sitting in a really good place because we've already created a plan to get to these remote areas. We've isolated what areas are fundable under which programs. Now it's just a matter of us feeling comfortable with what we've got together in an agreement. And I think we can work that out here in the next week or so with your staff. And if we need to, I'm thinking there was a little bit of discussion earlier about maybe having a follow-on meeting, that we would have a special called meeting or something of that sort. So let's talk real quickly about the numbers. Essentially, what we're looking at in the entire project to fund the less 100 by 20, it's about $11.5 million. But what we're asking the county to do is to set aside 20% of that, which is $2.4 million. And then we would go after grant requests in the amount of roughly $3.8 million in these two different buckets that I talked about. And then River Street would be matching all together with the $2 million that Eric talked about that we would be willing to allocate towards a wireless project. We'd be looking at $5.3 million altogether. Now that number has some things baked into it based on take rate and percentages. So one thing that we wanted to make sure that we were really clear about is the fact that if the take rate is less than 40%, because that was based on a 40% take, then the match that River Street would contribute is going to go down, because we're going to be connecting those customers, and we'll only connect customers that want to take the service. So if more people want to take the service, then River Street's contribution would go up. Do you follow me on that? Okay. All right. Any questions thus far?
I have a question. So with the 11.5 million total that you're saying, what's the estimate on how many households would be able to have service if they wanted it?
The current approximation number would be 884. But it's 1904 is the total project. 1884 are the That there's customer cutovers is associated with all of this. So 1904 is the number that you're looking for, is how many locations. That's all fiber and wireless combined into one.
1904.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's going to cost 11.5 million to reach 1,904 locations.
Yes.
Just so the public's clear on what this costs. Make sure we got that
That's
straight. It ain't cheap.
It certainly isn't. And this is really the conversation that we've been having for the last 10 years is why isn't anybody building in rural areas? And it's because the cost is so high. So what the federal government and the state is trying to do essentially is subsidize to get those people that there's not a business case to build for.
Gotcha. Any other questions up to this point?
Just have a couple of comments, Madam Chair. I think it would be a good idea to go ahead and, after we're finished here tonight, to get a committee meeting together as soon as possible to, for you guys to work out the terms of the contract and get all that sorted out. And then if we needed to have a special meeting to stay on schedule for the grant applications, I would certainly recommend doing that as well, if it's needed.
Okay.
Greg, I've only been on the board just for a little over a year.
Yes, sir.
How long have y'all been in Stokes County serving?
Since 2015?
2015?
Yes, sir.
Well, you got some rough kind of percentage of how many people you're serving now throughout the county?
It's approximately one-third of the locations we pass. And so the original project was over $11 million. And so that project was also reached the schools, the county government, a number of different locations, the hospital. So this project would add an additional 1,904 locations with fiber. So it's almost as large as the first project. But this gets to the actual unserved residential locations. And then what you're seeing on the screen right now is the wireless overlay I mentioned earlier, which would cover approximately 6,300 homes that would get some kind of service, but it wouldn't be the fiber to the home, which is the fastest service.
Okay. And another thing to clear up what Madam Chair said about the citizens, and what they need to understand, this is a lot of money coming from the state or federal government, the grant, and once you guys start installing all this, this is not free. This is a service you have to pay for, just like I do. I pay for it right now. So I think some people's got the wrong concept about this. It's because the grants is coming in, we're going to be able to get the internet to the house, it's not going to cost us anything, but no, that's not the case. You will have to pay for the service.
That's right. Now, one thing I can illustrate based on that point is that we do participate in several other programs that are federally subsidized to help low-income families. And basically that comes in at about $39.25 per month in a credit that if people apply and they qualify, once they qualify, we apply a voucher to their account. And then we have a way to make sure that that credit gets applied to their account every month. And so there are some federal programs that low-income housing would be able to apply for to help subsidize and reduce the rate of their broadband.
Thank you. That's good information.
Are there any other questions thus far? Not, we'll continue.
What tower are y'all looking to use for the wireless part up on that end?
Well, there's a total of 9 towers for the wireless, and there's not any specific towers yet assigned. There were some that were identified, but we tend to kind of wait because you have to negotiate with the landowner and the
Correct,
tower
yeah.
owner.
That's why I was wondering, was y'all are in the process of talking to the landowners and getting something secured? Okay, I see
Yes.
2 heads shaking,
Yes.
okay. So that's what I want to make sure when you say you're going to do is there something already kind of going in place where you got this instead of
That's
kind of,
right.
well, we plan to do this, but the landowners won't, work with us any, so we can't
Right.
do it. So,
That's right. We identified 9 locations that we preferred.
yeah,
Now, sometimes it may not work out, so we have some alternate sites. And
Okay.
So that's basically the plan they're working through now is here's our prime locations and here's backups. So that work's already begun, as I mentioned
Okay.
before.
All right.
Yes, we're not waiting to, yes.
okay, thank you.
One other question, to piggyback on Andy's question, some of those are existing towers already, or,
Yes,
right,
sir.
it's not all new towers?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think all of these were existing towers.
Oh, all of them are existing towers? Okay.
And I just want to make sure I've got the amounts correct here. Are y'all asking, out of this 11.5 million, saying that you can cover 1,904 locations, is that correct?
That's correct.
11.5,
Yes, sir.
but you're asking for the county for an additional 2,360,000, is that correct?
That's a part of that number.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir. That's a part of that 11 million number. Would not be in addition to.
From the American Rescue Funds.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. There aren't any other questions right now. If you want to continue on, we'll follow up at the end with some questions.
Certainly. I think I only have one slide left.
Okay.
Well, let me go back. I did want to just make sure that you got the illustration here on the fixed wireless. So what we do is we've done basically a propagation forecast that shows us approximately how many locations in the county could potentially see the signal from the 9 wireless towers. And that's what the green is that you see here. It's that propagation. But roughly it would cover 6,307 locations. You know, we estimate that we would serve about 881 of those locations. And then the proposed NC grant build locations would be 101. So out of the bucket that we were talking about earlier, that if we were to go after a North Carolina Great Grant, we've identified about 101 out of that bucket that could potentially get service a little faster with wireless before we built them the fiber. So it's kind of a bridge the gap solution to get internet to them faster and then move them over to the fiber if it was funded through the state Great Grant program. So essentially what we wanted to place at your feet as a request is the $2.4 million in total matching funds from the county to build to all unserved and underserved areas in the county, which is the 1904 locations. And this is completely subject to if FCC develops new maps, project and funding sources being rescoped and being amended as needed. So in other words, right now we say there's 1,904 locations that we feel like are funded, but we've prior talked about the fact that new maps were being created. So when the new maps are created, there could be more that are fundable locations than 1904. And so at that point in time, we would want to come and have a discovery conversation with you about what that looks like. So if, lo and behold, the FCC come up and said there's another 500 or 600 locations that are fundable, then we would want to rerun the project scope and talk to you about what that looks like to get to those people. So that's why we say that. River Street plans to apply in partnership with the county for funding of unserved areas of less 25 and 3 in this current round of Great Grant funding. River Street plans to apply in partnership with the county for additional and future funding of unserved areas of less 100 by 20 in an eligible grant program. So some examples of that would be the federal, this is a new program, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Fund program. It's called the BEAD program. That's that third bucket I told you that would be coming down from the federal government. And that money is going to be issued to the states for the states to pass that out. There's some restrictions that are going to come along with that as well. And then there are other funding mechanisms out there, such as the United States Department of Agriculture's Rural Utilities Service. They have a program called the Reconnect program that we're very familiar with. We've applied for and won some different Reconnect grants. The Fiber to the Home project will begin within 180 days of receiving materials and equipment necessary for construction and run a maximum of 3 years, or based on whatever the requirement of the grant program says. So if we apply for money through another program and that program comes back and says it's a 2-year or 3-year build design, then we're going to abide by whatever that build design is. We are seeing that there are currently some constraints out there for getting fiber and for getting equipment. And so that's why we ask for us to begin the project as soon as the equipment's received. We're going to work diligently to go ahead and secure purchase orders and get things rolling so that we can get that stuff here, but we can't possibly start the project until the materials arrive. And then lastly, the wireless project will begin once funding is secured for a fiber to the home project, and it'll run concurrently under the same timeline of any funded grant award. So as soon as we can secure funds, then we would begin immediately on the wireless well, we've actually already started, as Mr. Kramer said, we've already started on the project, so. And I think that was the last of the comments that I wanted, so if there's any additional questions, we'll take those.
Go ahead.
I just have a couple, Madam Chair, just clarification. You said the 180-day thing's your worst case, but you try to start quicker than that if you.
We're going to want to. So when those materials arrive, we're going to want to get started right away.
Okay, and and if we have map changes that occur in the middle of this, then you basically, we just come back and you'd come back and say, okay, here's the new data, the new situation. Here's a new proposal that adjusts to that. What do you guys want to do, right?
Right.
Is that kind of what?
So, yes, sir. I want to make sure that I'm clear about the fact that if map changes occur, they're not going to happen during this great grant award cycle.
Okay.
All of the providers nationwide are now required to submit data in a completely different way to the FCC than we've been submitting it for years, and the deadline for that is September the 1st. So as soon as the FCC starts receiving all of their new data under these new requirements, they're going to start crunching down and making these new maps. They've hired a contract company to help them revise their maps.
Okay.
It will probably be next year, the end of next year, or a year from September at a minimum before we'll have new maps.
Couple years out.
Right, so we feel like if we apply and we are successful with a great grant, we'll start that project with you immediately. And then we would be looking to when the new maps come out to reinvestigate and see what that opens up for Stokes County as it pertains to any funding that would be available.
Okay. And then one last comment I'll just make is we've worked with USDA on a lot of different projects, and so anything we can do with them, I think we would be in a good position to deal with them.
Certainly. We've had really good success with USDA as well.
Okay. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
All right.
I sure do, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick comment to, I don't know if Commissioner Nicholson or Barney Kessler has one. We were handed at 4 o'clock this afternoon a sheet that had 6 concerns on it. And I'm certainly not going to go over each of these tonight because it would make our meeting last quite a bit longer than it needs to be. However, as I took notes, I noticed that you addressed 2 or 3 of the concerns that were given to us and this was put together by our county attorney, our administration, and our technical assistance team. Therefore, Madam Chair, I certainly think that we are going to have a meeting, and I would prefer it to be, instead of with the broadband committee, with the 5 commissioners at a called meeting.
I think we were talking about the broadband committee taking a preliminary look at comparing the RFP and the contract and looking at it, and that could happen before another meeting with us so that we can get some clarification on some of the points of the new contract. But definitely, I mean, the decision is this board's decision, no matter what the committee comes up with after they look at it. But so, you know, but some of the finer points could be worked out, some of the differences, and it sounds like a lot of it is just dependent on funding and when different pots of money is going to be released in the future, and if we're in the middle of the great grant stuff and this other money is available, how that could happen.
Certainly, and the 6 items that are here, I don't think will be huge deal breakers. In fact, I think we'll take this back to our team within River Street, and we'll address all of these issues as quickly as possible and get them back to you so that we can get this moving forward. And then whatever works in the best interest of the board and our timing, because we
Right.
do have that submittal, we have to be
Right.
prepared to submit that in advance of May the 4th. We usually try to hit the send button 2 or 3 days ahead, just so that we are covered.
Well, if we have to, we'll do a special called meeting before our next board meeting just to look at this contract again and go ahead and finalize everything so we won't miss any critical deadlines for sure.
Perfect.
So that's
And
fine.
I don't know how you feel we can meet with you in person, or if you guys would rather do this virtually, whatever is of value to the board will accommodate.
Well, we'll talk about that with county manager when she returns tomorrow and
Certainly.
see. I'm fine with doing the, since COVID and the virtual meetings and stuff, I've become kind of accustomed to that. So if that can make things happen quicker, then that would be okay as well to do it virtually. However, we need to, Mr. Nicholson, did you have?
I'm good right now.
Okay. I did have one, just out of curiosity more than anything, because it doesn't have anything to do with great grant funding or the contract or anything else, but looking at some of the fixed wireless solutions that are being talked about that obviously can reach a lot more households and in our county where putting fiber in the ground is such a problem with everything, with, our mountain range and the amount of rock and stuff. The fixed wireless does seem to be a solution. However, I saw where, of course this was on Facebook, but a guy had posted his letter where they were being canceled by River Street, somewhere up near Hanging Rock, and their LTE fixed wireless service was being canceled. So
Yes.
what's the deal with that?
So that was actually a trial that we were doing with a piece of technology, and the manufacturer and the company that we were using to do that trial, our trial expired. So it was just literally a trial to see if the technology would work well with that vendor. And the vendor, we're sending the equipment back into the vendor and working on relations to see if we could secure a solution like that we could use. And so that particular individual was actually participating in a trial. It wasn't the wireless that we've installed. But I can tell you that that Stokes County, we have secured special licensed spectrum for CBRS spectrum. It's a technology that tends to be a little bit more forgiving of the trees. A mountain it's not going to forgive, but it will forgive trees a little bit more. And so that solution is what we plan to use along with another technology here that will allow us to try to get further out to customers.
So you're saying there's better equipment and better solutions than what you were trying out,
And
basically.
we plan, well, that pilot is different, but the solutions that we use today in Stokes County for fixed wireless, we are, the new technology that we have access to in the new spectrum is what we plan to utilize on these 9 towers that we're going to be deploying.
I'm curious, one point of clarification. So what we're going to do now is they're going to take these 6 concerns and meet with the committee, and the committee will give us a recommendation, basically, right, on how to proceed. Is that
Yeah, I think if we'll try to make that happen this week if possible.
really quick? Yeah.
And so that maybe by next week, we can either have a virtual meeting or in-person meeting or whatever we can accommodate to go ahead and get this approved
Sure.
and get all the little concerns ironed out and move it forward. So, yep, we'll do it as timely and as fast as we can get it done.
Thank you again. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. The next item is the Walnut Cove Lions Park dugout replacement request, and I think we have Glenda Pruitt here to talk to us about that.
Good afternoon. Shannon and I and Stuart were approached by the Walnut Cove Little League in regards to they've had a dugout to fall, wind blew over, not sure what exactly happened. Could have been. But anyway, Stuart and I had went down and took a look at it, and we talked with Amy in regards to trying to do something with like posts in the middle top, maybe to get Public Works to do that. But they would like to go with the block dugout, which I understand why, so it would match the other one. So I've reached out to a contractor, because that was the struggle to begin with, trying to find somebody to do block work. That seems to be a challenge lately. So I reached out to one and finally got a price. And it's going to be somewhere in the range of $5,500 to $6,000 to replace, to do the block dugout, which will match the ones that are currently there. So I'm before you tonight to request that we proceed with this so we can get the dugout replaced and fixed. The slab is there. We're just going to come up off the existing slab.
Any questions?
I have no questions with it.
All right.
Just a couple, Madam Chair. So this is a normal maintenance function with some of our property we own, basically, right? I mean, the reason I'm asking, at one time we had set aside some funds a few years ago, $2,500 a year, I think, for parks to do new projects. And then I thought we left in place $1,000 or $2,000 a year for maintenance. Is that still true, all that, or not?
My understanding from the finance, Julia, and with Lisa, originally it was $2,000, and basically they would come in and bring receipts for different items. Some, my understanding, use it for utilities, some use it for maintenance of the lawns,
Yeah.
things to that nature. But then in this fiscal year, it went to $4,000. And then, you know, we've had in the past them come before us for different items that kind of exceeded that amount, or so they didn't use those total funds on something such as this. Because we as a county do keep the insurance and things to that nature on it.
Okay. But we're basically repairing something that got broke.
Yes.
Is what it
Yes.
boils down to. Okay.
Yes.
Is there insurance, like, can you do any some type of claim on this or no?
Well, the problem is we wasn't notified. I don't go down there every day. There wasn't a potential storm per se that I could have said, well, there was a hurricane and it could have done this. When I was actually informed and I got down there, everything was gone. There was just a slab. All the rock was gone, so they had already cleaned everything up. So I would have a hard time filing a claim because I'm not sure exactly what and when and where it took place. Because they're going to ask me all those questions. So, and then keep in mind we do have a deductible to pay, and then there's another claim. So,
Gotcha.
May I have?
Yes, sure.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Madam Chair. I happen to be very familiar with this situation. And I think it's very important that we move on this. Actually, went down yesterday and took another look at it. I was in there for about an hour, and I was speaking with many of the people there. And the Wanaco Lions group, the Little League, I think it actually made the front page of the Stokes News this week. They had the most kids signed up this time than they've had maybe in the history of the Little League in Walnut Cove. I believe it was 176 children that signed up to play. I went down there, and just be up front, I used to coach the big league team in Walnut Cove on the third field. And certainly the second field needs fixing. And I talked to a couple of people. The opening day, I think, was Saturday. Their season ends May the 28th. We have a safety issue also involved with this. And we do own that park. The county owns the park. And I would, and I know each commissioner has their own right to their own opinion, but I'd like to ask for this to be moved to action tonight with a vote taken.
All right.
Thank you.
And Lisa
Sorry,
does.
Glenda, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was waiting to.
No, you're fine. And Lisa does have a budget amendment ready because we came prepared for, we were hoping you would move it to action tonight. So there is a budget amendment ready for you all to approve if you would like to do that.
Okay, are there any other questions, or is it the pleasure of the board to move this to action?
I don't have any problem, doing repairs, or helping do repairs on this, just for the kids and the county and stuff. Just a little concern, as, will coach any interest of helping fund any of this, or just strictly the county?
Not that I know of. Now, you know, if funding does come available for if someone wants to donate or some, you know, then we would not use the total amount. We would put it back into the contingency pot. But currently, right now, it's just the county funding.
Well, I'm pretty sure Shannon said she talked to Kim Greenwood about the town of Walnut Cove,
And-
splitting the cost.
And I think they don't meet until tomorrow, so,
Right.
you know.
Well, hopefully they'll agree to split it, but I think we can go ahead and move this to action. It'll become, on the action agenda, item F, I think.
And if you will add that it would be budget amendment number 98.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, one thing I would like to request is that Glenda or whoever update us on all the parks during the upcoming budget proposal, just to let us know what's going on with that, and if there's anything we need to do
Yeah, that's no problem. I've actually
funding-wise
been,
to keep them maintained and up to date.
I've been working with the one on Burton Loop recently. We've got some stuff going on down there with some mowing. I'm trying to help them find someone and things to that nature. But I'll be glad to do that. That's no problem.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Glenda. All right, the next item is our budget schedule for fiscal year 22-23. Amber?
Yeah, so as you're aware, we're coming into the budget season for fiscal year 2022-2023. So we just need to set that budget schedule for the Board of Commissioners to meet on that. So the delivery of the budget will be on Monday, May 23rd. Budget work sessions proposed are Wednesday, June 1st at 2, Thursday, June 9th at 6, Thursday, June 16th at 2, Tuesday, June 21st at 6. The public hearing will take place on Tuesday, June 7th at 7 p.m. And the joint meeting with the Board of Education will be Tuesday, June 14th at 2. Just please advise us if those dates work for everybody, and if not, can we discuss possible other dates that we could set? So we
The
can.
Board of Education agreed to that date.
They have, Dr. Rice and Commander Shaver have discussed that. And the
I'm good with all of them.
DC, is there any way we can, I've got a conflict on June 1st, June 21st, and June 7th.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I will be here at the meetings one way or the other. I'm having knee replacement surgery May the 10th. And my doctor told me that as long as I use the walker or a cane, I could make it back up here. So I'm planning on doing that. And I've never had knee replacement. Dr. Pollard says he'll have me like new, and I won't have trouble with my left knee, so I'm looking forward to this. And Tuesday, June 21st, I will sacrifice and be here, Madam Chair, because that is my birthday. And I'm not going to tell you how old I'm going to be, because I like for people to think I'm still a young buck. So. But Tuesday, the 21st is my birthday. And thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
96.
96? No, not quite.
So,
So the 21st, even though it's my birthday, I'm fine.
All right.
with that, so.
you have any conflicts?
No, I'm
with any of
fine.
those? As far as I know, I don't have any conflicts. This is the first time I've seen these dates, or well, not the first time. When you sent the agenda out, was the first time I'd seen these dates. So,
I don't think these are, I guess, set for any particular reason on these days, so we can, Commissioner Nicholson, do you have anything on Thursday, June 2nd?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
you want to change the first one to June 2nd?
Yeah, I'll just keep it at the same time, just for simplicity's sake.
Okay. All right, I'm fine with that. Are everybody fine with changing it to Thursday, June 2nd?
And we keeping it at 2 p.m.
Yeah, what was the other one that you couldn't do?
June 7th and June 21st.
Okay.
Oh, I ain't got nothing to do with the hospital, so.
So,
Tuesday, June 7th.
could you do Tuesday, June 21st at an earlier time? If we moved it up to 2,
Yeah,
or
I can.
you want to just move it up to 2 that day?
That's fine.
Which one?
The 21st?
21st. So at 2 p.m. that day?
And then the public hearing on the 7th.
Maybe Monday, June 6th, maybe?
That'd be
I don't
fine.
have a meeting that day.
Okay. All right, that should be fine.
Okay, so, Madam Chair, will you get, Amber, will you give us now our revised dates to make sure I'm on target here?
Sure. I'll just go over all of them again. So the budget will be presented on Monday, May 23rd, 2022. Budget work sessions are now June 2nd at 2 p.m., Thursday, June 9th at 6 p.m., Thursday, June 16th at 2 p.m., June 21st at 2 p.m., and then the public hearing will be Monday, June 6th at 7 p.m., and the joint meeting with the Board of Education will be Tuesday, June 14th at 2 p.m.
Time's of public hearing, Amber, you say?
7.
7, okay.
The only reason that that County Manager Shaver had scheduled the public hearing for June 7th at 7 p.m. is because you all have a planning meeting that same day at 6 p.m.
That works.
That was just for simplicity.
So we're moving that to the 6th. The public hearing sounds.
Can we move that planning meeting to the 6th as well?
We could advertise that date change if we needed to, but we'll have to talk with Planning Director David Sutter.
Well, go ahead and ask, because if we could do them both on that same day, because Commissioner Nicholson's going to be out of town on the 7th anyway, or can't do the 7th, so,
Monday, June the 6th is our public hearing.
Right.
And that's at 2, now we're moving it to 2 o'clock.
no, we're going to keep it at
Leaving it at
7.
7.
7, and we're going to see if we can move the planning meeting to 6 instead of having it on Tuesday, June 7th.
Thank you.
We've got plenty of time to make that
We
change
just
if that.
need to let David Sutter know because he has to advertise that in the paper. And
Okay.
we have to advertise that on the website. But I will check with him first thing tomorrow.
Okay, and then you can just email us all these, like a revision to all of this. So those, planning, the budget work sessions, I can't remember from last year because I had COVID during the budget work sessions, but do we have all of those, or sometimes we don't have to have them if we get things worked out
Sometimes.
sooner? You may not have to have but maybe 3 of the 4 meetings or
Right.
something?
Yeah, it just
Okay.
depends. We'll see how far we get. I think last year I think we may have used all of them, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember, I had COVID.
Was the BOE date again, Amber?
And everything on
Board of
code.
Education?
The Board of Education meeting is Tuesday, June 14th at 2 p.m.
Okay. Sounds good. I'd say after we meet with them, we'll probably need to have those next 2 meetings, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All
I
right.
just needed a consensus from the board on that. So.
All right. Well, I think the consensus is these changes will be good, and you can check with David Sutterth on the planning meeting, and then just email us a new list of these meetings. Sounds good. All right, the next item is the Stokes County Aging and Planning Committee appointment.
So the Stokes County Aging Planning Services Committee has a lot of vacancies right now. There's actually only 3 positions filled out of the 9 voting members for that committee. They're having trouble finding individuals, so I did send out an email to employees, requesting that if they knew of anybody or wanted to serve themselves, that they're in desperate need for that committee. And we did receive an application for Registered Deeds Brandon Hooker to be nominated for that. He did submit his application.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open the floor for any other nominations. If not, I need a motion to nominate Brandon Hooker.
Motion to nominate Brandon Hooker.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll have that back on action. And the next item is the RFP for the audit services.
On March 9th, a RFP went out to 5 participating audit firms. I received 2 proposals back by April 1st. And I am recommending that Martin and Starnes and Associates be approved as our auditing firm.
Okay. Board members have questions? Is that who's been doing it? Okay. They seem very capable and easy to work with, so.
So they're saying, Ms. Langford, that the reason for the increase is due to the COVID funds generating more audit requirements?
Sir, we've got to do some single book audits and yellow book audits.
So we've got an increase of approximately $47,000, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we placed this out for bid,
Yes, we did on March 9th.
placed it out, and this came back the best, the lowest.
That was not the lowest bid, but we got, I had a statement from Ty that said the firm best meeting the county's expectation for experience, audit approach, and cost requirements can be selected. You do not have to take the lowest bid.
And
So-
I
so we were
understand that.
Just
I know we-
thinking with the transitional period,
Yeah.
and they know us well.
Thank you. I mean, I understand that
Yeah.
we don't have to take the lowest bid.
Yeah.
I just want to know the rationale on why we're not taking the lowest bid, and you just gave it to me.
Oh, and also I talked to the other firm and asked them, had they ever performed an audit with the county, and they have not yet.
Okay. I'm fine now.
We'll have this on action for the next meeting. Are there any other questions on this?
I think it's kind of a best value analysis, and especially with the new finance officer, it's not a great time to be changing. Be a good thing, I think,
Right.
from a best value perspective, to let Lisa transition.
Yeah, I think so
Especially
too.
going with somebody's never done a county budget.
Yeah, with somebody, yeah, she don't need to be teaching them about counties, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense with the transition.
With that,
All right.
thank you.
Yep, we'll have this on action at the next meeting. All right, that's going to take us to the action agenda. And item A is the JCPC appointment request. At the last meeting, the board nominated Jonna Cheek, Sam Pigram, Elaine Habenet, Lindsay Moose, and Robin Riddlebarger to the Stokes County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. I'll open the floor for any further nominations.
Make a
to
motion to-
close.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm going to poll the board, and you can say list as presented, since there's several names. Starting down here with Commissioner Morris.
As presented, Madam Chair.
As presented.
As presented.
As presented.
As presented. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Next item is the Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation, which I'm going to attempt to read aloud here. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and the proclamation for April 2022 reads, whereas in calendar year 2021, 766 reports were made to Child Protective Services in Stokes County, and whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solution requires input and action from everyone. Whereas our children are our most valuable assets and will shape the future of Stokes County, and whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. Whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities that they need to foster their healthy growth and development, and whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. Whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children, ensuring all children grow to their full potential. Whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, the faith community, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Therefore, we, the Stokes County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Stokes County and call upon the citizens and community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. Dated this 11th day of April, 2022, signed by all the commissioners. So, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. The next item is the abandonment resolution request for Victory Hill Church Road, and I'll need a formal motion to bring this item back to the action agenda because it was tabled a few meetings ago. I have a motion to bring this item back to the action agenda.
Motion, we bring it back to action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now I need a motion to approve the resolution for the intent to close a portion of Victory Hill Church Road.
Madam Chair, I'd make a resolution that the board approve the resolution to do the intent to close the road, which I think will lead us to being able to set a public hearing.
Okay. Also, I think that Mr. Carroll has agreed to come to our meeting on the 9th of the public hearing and talk more to the board about his plans for that property, which will be good for the community to hear as well. So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second Commissioner Morris's motion, like I said, with intent, but we're not going to close it until we have a formal meeting with the public.
Public hearing on May 9th. All right. I got a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, and Andy is abstaining, so the motion carries. All right, that takes us to the next item, is the action on the animal tax, rescinding the animal tax. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Action on the quick response vehicle that will be located at Francisco, and this is to go ahead and do some revisions to the fire department at Francisco to allow somebody to stay there for 24 hours. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion on the quick response vehicle, Madam Chair.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item F is the dugout at Walnut Cove Field and Little League, and it has budget amendment number 98.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have I missed anything, Amber?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right.
As long as I guess you called the formal public hearing, right? For the,
Yes, with,
it'll be at 6 p.m.
6 p.m., I don't know if I said the time, so at 6 p.m. on May 9th, I have a public hearing regarding the road closure. Okay. Now, if you'll read the rationale to take us into closed.
What about the planning committee appointment? Weren't you going to add that? Booker?
No, that's coming back on the next meeting.
That's,
They redo that for this one thing.
action next meeting.
Sorry, that's the next meeting. All right, so take us into closed, Amber.
To consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Make a motion to go into close.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Take a 5-minute recess. All right, thank you. Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All, see y'all next time.